Let me out!
Hoist the sails!
Let me out!
We've got a treasure to hunt.
Hey!
Scout, what do you see ahead?
Land ho!
Aye, full speed ahead.
Is that a shark?
Pay no heed to the fish in the water.
Let me out! Shut up, ye landlubber! Ow!
We sail forwards.
Don't worry, Ned. I'm going to get you out when we're close to shore.
Wait, but how did I even get here? Who are you?
Who I am isn't important. You are the last hope we have.
We've been hit! Abandon ship! Don't forget our prisoner! We only have 100 days to get the treasure.
Aye, Captain.
I'll get.
Wait. Who opened your cage?
Go, Natural! Survive!
Oi, cop that treacherous one!
The rest of you after that scurvy dog.
Nay! Save the rum. We'll grab the prisoner later. He won't last long in these lands. There be dinosaurs and dragons afoot.
I swam towards shore, having been freed by my mysterious savior, but I wasn't safe yet. Made it to shore. I have to get out of here before the crew comes looking for me. I began to run down the beach, grabbing some stones, berries, and wood. I'm gonna survive on this island. Gonna need some basic tools and equipment. So I punched a tree to make a pickaxe and cloth shirt, broke apart a rock for flint and metal, made a hatchet so I could gather some wood to use for spears, when I noticed another ship in the distance. Oh, they're the pirates. Guess they are gonna be looking for me. I started to sneak along the coast in the direction the ship was heading, but I needed food. Mrs. Dodo, thank you for your sacrifice. That makes sense. I set up a campfire to cook up some prehistoric chicken before crafting up a bow and some bowlers, and feeling geared I began to make my way inland and killed off a dado, but realized that moving overland would not work out. So I made myself a canoe in hopes it'd be small enough to evade detection from the pirates, then paddled out into the ocean. Hopefully my canoe survives better than the pirates' galleon. Landing across the bay, I picked up my canoe to continue the journey on foot. Found a quiet spot where I could hide out for a moment, set up a campfire, foundation and forge, and set up a smithy with the metal that's melted and made a new pickaxe. With some basic tools I was going to need to get tames to help me survive. With that goal in mind, I killed off a tech parasaur to harvest for its scrap metal, then spotted a treasure chest on the hill nearby. I wasn't strong enough to break it open, so headed back to my foundation to craft up a bunch of chibis for experience. And it was day 3 by the time I was strong enough to break into the chest. I got a compass and a Sarko saddle blueprint. Not the best rewards, but it's something. But I had been here too long, so picked up all my stuff and climbed into a dinghy I had made. I continued onwards through the swamp and hit the shore only for my dinghy to get stuck. So I destroyed it to continue on with my canoe, arriving at what I hoped was the mainland. Following the river onwards, there was a natural land bridge. I figured it would be a good hiding spot, so set up my stuff to continue gearing up. I was going to need a much bigger boat if I was going to get off of this island. Wait. We aren't an Ark anymore. Why can I hear a T-Rex? Shit, I need to get back to my car. Run, go, 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 go.
Oh, wait. Huh. I guess it wasn't the actual T-Rex. It was actually my plush, which just released onto Makeship.
You can buy one of these guys for yourself for only $29.99 and worldwide shipping for only $9. I am genuinely so happy with how this little guy came out, and he's just adorable. So make sure to click the first link in the description or scan this QR code. This is a product I directly help produce, and you guys would be supporting me a ton if you get one for yourself, for your friends, your kids, your dog, whoever. So go order one. They are limited edition and will only be available for a short time, so make sure you order yours now.
Wait, was that another T-Rex? Uh-oh. Gotta go.
There were some beavers I freed of their belongings, as I'm sure the paste would be useful to help me build a ship to escape. I spent some time mining the river rocks for metal, but I really need to find some crystal for spyglass. Thus, I ventured out with my gear and came across one of the weirdest creatures I've ever seen. Something strange must be going on, as this Gastrophera should not exist here. I can only imagine what other monstrosities exist on this ark. I continued on with my crystal quest, running through the swamp and up into the plains, past the Maywings, eventually coming across a horse. This could be a really useful early tame, so grabbed some berries, snuck up to it and jumped on. I realized with berries that this tame was too high a level and would take way too long, so jumped off to find a lower level. I found a level 40, I mounted to begin taming, and fed it around 20 berries when... No, don't run next to the soccer, you stupid horse! Run! Oh my god, wild passive tame, so stupid. Well, that was close. I guess I need a new horse now. I wasted so much time on that stupid horse. And I found a new horse nearby, so hid in the grass till it got close enough to jump on, only for a Microraptor to decide I was not allowed this one and killed me. I got back and collected my stuff, so I found yet another new horse, but just realized this was not worth it. Instead, spending some time harvesting up the obsidian rocks, and I found a pteranodon nearby and figured I needed something, so boiled it and tranked it out. I killed off a pteranodon for me to tame his friend, and there was also an ovis which I killed to gather mutton, a much more effective taming food. Tamed up the pteranodon and named it Tweedles. I didn't quite have what I needed for a saddle, so ran with Tweedles following me to leave it behind by my campfire, while I went to farm the keratin I needed for the saddle. Made up some spike walls, a strategy I learned a long time ago when I did the hunted. Then simply dropped the spike walls on top of a trike to kill it, so I could harvest its meat, hide, and most importantly, keratin. I killed off a couple trikes with the same method of spike walls. Did almost die to a stego who I tried to kill with the spikes. I still had 1 health left, not even close. And I finally had enough keratin to make up the saddle and took flight.
Okay, let's go find some crystal.
Flying all across the island, high up into the mountains, making it into a volcanic area which had some gem rocks.
Please tell me this is crystal and not just salt. Yes! Okay, I found crystal.
Now that I had some crystal, I flew back to my hiding spot as I was still worried that the pirates might find me. I admit I still wasn't sure why they wanted me, but all I know is it can't be good.
Set up the camp before you bunch of scallywags finish all the rum.
Matey, come inside and shut the door.
Aye, Captain. What do we do with the traitor?
They freed our key.
They can't be trusted. Me say we make them feed their fishies.
Aye, they can walk the plank.
You don't understand. He is not the key.
Nay, you don't understand. He be the key to unlimited treasure.
Punch her off!
Down with the traitorous wench.
No. Wait! Ah!
Arr!
And it was the 10th day since I escaped the pirates, but I was still a long way from escaping this island, as I would not get very far with just a canoe. So I set up a mortar and pestle to make more narcotics, then headed into the swamp and saw that Gastrofera needed Callian soup in order to tame it. I wanted to make a longship to try and get off this island and away from the pirates. So using my spikes, I killed off a frog to skin for hide, made up the longship and headed off to the beach to try and make my escape. Setting sail as the sun began to set when suddenly I spotted something I had missed. The second pirate ship! I had to move fast, so cranked the longship to full speed, sailing out into the depths. I was free! I was going to escape! Until something lurking in the deep spotted me and destroyed my boat. I desperately tried to swim to shore, as thankfully the creature must have been distracted by the stores of fish inside the boat. I needed to see what the creature was who attacked my boat, so waded into the water when I spotted it. That is a shark with 4 heads. That is terrifying. Guess if I ever hope to get off this island, I will need to kill that shark first. I gathered some hide, wood, thatch and fiber to make a dinghy, just so I could go back to the mainland by staying close to the shore, when I remembered that I was really close to the pirates' camp. Let's go get a closer look to see what they're up to. Hiding behind the trees and in the long grass, sneaking up the rocks, they appeared to have tamed some Maywings and Pteranodons, so I was definitely going to need to speed things up. But for now, I have to get out of here as the pirates may come back any moment. Running back to my outpost, picking up all my stuff and flying off. I needed somewhere secure to hide out. After flying far and wide, I found what looked to be a cave hidden behind a waterfall. This spot is perfect. It's such an obvious hideout that the pirates will never think I'd hide here. Flew in and set up my foundation and stuff, and spent some time harvesting stone to set up some more foundations, and also killed off a Trudon with a bowler and crossbow. Then lay my head down to sleep for the night. I started out in the morning by gathering some berries as I wanted to make some narcotics when I turned and saw a managana. That's not menacing at all. So I decided to trank it out, dropping down with a parachute to shove in my meat and tame it. It was then I realized I was not a high enough level for the saddle. Great. Guess we need to find something else. Thus, after making a couple dozen narcotics, Tweedles and I flew off back to the plains where I'd seen those Maywings. And I found a Maywing early the next day and trapped it in some billboards, shooting it with trank arrows, knocking it out, and there was a second one who I tranked out as well. I stole some mutton from a raptor who was just trying to enjoy his meal, then gently fed the mutton to the Maywings. What, do you think I was going to shove in my meat? I named the first one Snoodles and the second Snooples, after a true legend from my previous adventures. Since I only had the one soul ball, I led Snooples all the way home following Tweedles, and we did have one run-in with a Carno but managed to kill it, so I flew home to fetch a soul ball and saddle for Snooples, trapped up Tweedles and headed home. Snooples and Snoodles got to spend some quality time together in the cave, leaving me with some eggs that I could hatch for an imprinted Maywing, then set out to collect as many drops as I could find, since if I was going to survive on this island, I needed more equipment. I even flew past a crash ship which stranded me here. Yeah, the pirate ship hasn't burnt down yet. That must be some really good wood. I should probably have a closer look at that ship sometime, but I would need armor first. And as my drop hunting continued, I came up on an island which had a lot of Hydras around it. Very strange to have so many in one place. With plenty of supplies, I got home to spend some time harvesting bushes with Snooples as I needed the narco berries for more narcotics. I had a baby Maywing hatched by mistake at home, so I imprinted it to at least have one with good stats. Okay, and I got a bunch of narcotics being made up. So with the narcotics, I'll be able to make up a bunch of trank arrows so that I can go out and try tame myself. And then Kylo and a Dode, the standard resource gatherers. I should probably also make some Callian soup so I can try get one of those gastroferous. Okay, in order to make Callian soup, I am going to need some citronelle. So I should probably set up a garden so I can start growing some crops, as it looks like I'm going to be stuck on this island for a while. To make the greenhouse, however, I would need lots of stone, wood, and crystal. So definitely going to need those resource gatherers first. While out hunting for a good level gatherer, I got some amazing boots from a treasure chest. Really good boots, god damn. 500 durability, 458 armor, and only 210 ingots. But with it being late in the day, I just flew home and will need to continue my hunt in the morning. I found a level 50 Dode in the morning, which I agree is not the best level, but it will do. So once I was out cold, I fed up my berries, and while I was eating, I went out exploring, when I came across what appeared to be a local tavern. The Thirsty Serpent, which was unfortunately closed, so no buying any local rum today, but good to see not everyone on this island is a pirate trying to capture me.
Have you seen this man?
Nay, never have seen him here in my life. I ain't even opened me doors yet.
Well, you better tell us if you do, else we'll be back and not so friendly.
Okay, put the gun down.
My Dode was fully tamed by the time I returned, so now I'd be able to get plenty stoned. But I was going to need an Anki if I wanted more metal. So I found a level 100 on a nearby mountain, which was also a great spot for metal. But the Anki fell asleep after some arrows to the face, and with it sleeping peacefully munching on the measure berries, I went and collected even more loot drops in the desert. Hey, I got a shotgun BP. Trapped up the Yankee in the morning and headed home. I was short of some hide for the saddle, so had to fight off some guests in the redwoods with Snooples so I could harvest their skin, and saddled up the Yankee to smash some rocks for flint, as well as the Dode to gather a few bits of stone. I should now be able to set up some crop plots in the morning to make kibble to begin taming some more powerful creatures. I planned to set up my greenhouse, so I was going to need crystal. Thankfully, my new Anki was great at harvesting it, though we did have some problems with the Saber and Argentavis, but Snooples barely flopped to victory, and after the crystal was left at home, I did some metal harvesting and stego slamming. Flew home, only to find I was short of wood. Now while I could harvest some with the hatchet, it wasn't going to be enough. Thus I flew off in the early hours of the morning in search of a beaver to tame. Eventually finding one, but I was more interested in being friends with the Spino than with me. The stupid beaver. It ran so far away from me that it ran next to a Spino and is now going to die to the Spino. And I found a new one on day 23 and hid out on a rock to trank it out. Once it was sleeping, I spotted some weird creatures in the water nearby. A barrow. They look really cool, so I pulled out my crossbow to trank one out, and with it finally sleeping, I just needed some fish meat to tame it. There was a lead nearby who pleasantly allowed me to scrape some prime meat off of it. Thank you, sir. Then on my way back, I spotted an alien-looking creature known as a Murlure. Whoa, this thing makes like illusions? This freak was even able to summon illusions of itself and make me trip as if I was on drugs. That thing is so cool, I want one! But time eventually passed and my beaver tamed up, who I named Captain Canada. Trapped it and went to trap the barrow, though we did first have to fight a saltwater crocodile, then zipped home on Snooples, saddled up Captain Canada, killed a Carno patrolling my base, and using my Captain Canada to see just how much wood could a wood gatherer gather, since a wood gatherer can gather wood. It was 3,616 wood, and I figured relying on the spot being so obvious the pirates would not lock you is probably not the best strategy, so I set up some foundations and a gate slightly behind the waterfall just in case.
Oi, where are you going?
I'm checking the cave.
Don't be dumb, he's not an idiot. He won't hide somewhere so obvious.
But what if?
Okay, listen here. If we don't check this whole island soon, Captain is gonna send us both to the Davy Jones locker, man.
But...
Nah, hurry up and let's go.
I was going to need a lot of metal to smelt, so I set up a foundation, platform and advanced forge to increase my production, as I felt a bit more secure now. But I ran out of stone, so paused my work and remembered that tavern I tried to visit earlier. So I flew out on Snooples and actually found a second structure, so landed nearby to check it out. The doors were unlocked, so walked in, but no one other than the bartender was around, though they didn't say much. Oh, hello there. You come here often? There was a cemetery outside the bar, and I actually found the grave of one of my ancestors. I didn't realize I had previous family on this island, but had to pay my respects at the grave. But I started to get worried the pirates might know about this bar, so jumped away on my Maywing. And I found one of the locals' bases on the beach nearby, but not knowing if they were friendly or working for the pirates, I hid behind one of their walls. Crawling through the grass, simply keeping an eye on what they were doing, but they soon spotted me, so I had to make my escape. And with my tail between my legs, I headed out to the desert as I needed to kill off some mantis, or the organic polymer. I wanted to see how the pirates were progressing in the morning, so landing nearby and sneaking up the rocks, they'd built up quite a bit since I was last here. With wyverns outside, I was suddenly really glad to have built that gate, just in case. I decided it's best to just avoid them and flew off, and coming across another local, and this guy was a friendly shipmaker, having built up this mighty vessel from scratch. Unlike those pirates using the pre-made galleons everyone buys at the local pirate mart. I decided to stop by the Thirsty Serpent to see if it was open, and they had made some upgrades, making a very ominous skull on the back of the tavern. Maybe this guy isn't so friendly, but the front door was unlocked and I wandered in. It was completely empty. In one of the back rooms was a map, which made me think maybe the pirates who captured me had a map, and clues as to why they came to this island. I had some food from the tavern, but decided it's best to just take my leave, as I wasn't sure where the tavern owner was. After whacking a ton of stones in the morning with my dode, I set up some foundations and crop plots as I needed these veggies to start growing, but I was short two important resources: fertilizer and oil. I came across an oil pump in the desert which I used to pump up some oil, and the oil was so I could set up a soul terminal, a very useful structure which can be used to generate resources with the right dinos inside it, one of which was fertilizer if there is a dung beetle inside. I was just going to need a beetle. To tame one, it was going to be a very crappy situation, so my dude had a rough day of stimberries and shoved it all into my pockets. With the feces, I found a beetle to tame in the swamp and I named it Stonker. I set up some water taps and pipes running to it so the crops would be well watered. Then using snooples harvested up a couple dozen bushes for seeds, planted them in the crop plots and filled them with feces so they could start growing. Maybe now I can finally make that Callian soup to tame a Gastrophera. Thus, I set up a cooking pot to cook up some Callian soup. While that was boiling in the cooking pot, I let my Maywings make some more babies to have some backups and imprinted them. Then soup in hand, glided off to the swamp. Sliding in the morning, I found a level 190 Gastrophera who I fed some soup, and there was also a female nearby who got soup as well, so I'd have a breeding pair. While their food was dropping, I had the idea to tame a Cryolophosaur, a snow-spitting raptor that is able to trank things out. But for that, I was going to need a gun and lots of ammo. So set up a bunch of bullets to craft and headed off to finish taming my Gastrophera. This snail-looking thing was rideable without a saddle. Pretty cool. I'll need to test it out properly to see if it can create anything. Trapped it up as well as finished taming the male to trap it up as well, and the rest of the day, however, was simply spent smashing some rocks for metal, since I would need a lot of bullets for a cryo tame.
Keep your guns loaded, lads. This cave be rife with bats.
Keep moving.
Oh, what's this?
Leave everything as it is. This cave may be cursed.
Hey, I won't touch anything, but I will keep a souvenir.
Hurry up.
Coming.
Creatures attacking.
I woke up in the morning and was heading out the cave when I saw a sign that something was nearby. I flew over to the cliff and spied it out. It was a ruined golem with 130,000 health. I would need to be careful, but something strange was going on and I really need to figure out what. So I started to glide around the map and there was a lot of weird and wonderful creatures around the map now. There was even an Atlas flame drake right outside my cave. That's a dragon right outside my base. But best to avoid it and just collect my wood. I made up a bunch of trank darts as I was going to need a tame with teeth in order to fend off these new threats. So with supplies in hand, I flew off on Snooples and came across a Dinosuchus fighting off some Sarcos. So I tried to save it as a Capro spotted me. Aw, come on. It didn't end well. In order to get back, I saddled up that mana as I could now make a saddle. And once I got back, I whistled my Maywing over in order to save it. Killed off the piranhas so I could get back my stuff and simply fly home to recover. I set up a fabricator and generator as I wanted to make some better equipment. Then while that was left to craft, set out on Snooples to find a tame with teeth. Like this level 170 Paleo Tyrannosaur. With it finally sleeping, the mutton was shoved in when I spotted an Argentavis nearby. That could be super helpful for gathering metal with my Anki. So I shot it with a trank dart, running in circles, dodging the claws of the Argent as it started to torpor fly away. Finally, I found it hiding on the hill nearby and was able to sneak up and snipe it, tranking it out. Once I was home with my Rex and Argent, I then saw I was not a high enough level for the saddle. So I will need to tame a second Rex to breed them and delete the offspring to get their experience. I found a level 40 female Paleo Rex who I was able to trank out before setting off to find an Ovis for mutton. Instead, finding the true apex predator of these lands, the Evo Giga. But I didn't have what I needed to tame it now. I flew onwards and found a small family of Ovis I was able to belly flop and munch on for meat. Fed it to the Rex and trapped her up. Back in the comforts of my cave, I set up Rexes so they could start making babies, and while they did the dirty, I headed out to go harvest some more metal when I spotted something incredibly deadly, the Overdrive Galvarex, a truly terrifying beast. I spent day 42 harvesting node after node, using my Argentavis to move the Anki so I could gather even more metal before flying home. I set up some aircons to hatch all the Rex eggs to be picked up by the Soul Terminal, while I just spent some time using my Maywing to gather up some hide. I set up some more female Rexes to breed even more babies for experience, hatching dozens of eggs before saddling up one of the Rexes and heading out. Using my Rex, I began to rip and tear through the creatures for their meat and hide. Then with the same ferocity, I used my beaver to chew through trees for wood. I had to use my doe to gather up a ton of stone, as it was a resource to make spark powder, which I needed to make gunpowder to make bullets. But then the rest of the day was spent simply munching on creatures with my Rex. I needed to make electronics, so for that I went out to collect a bunch of silica pearls for crafting. And I crafted up everything I needed to tame a cryo in the morning of day 48 and headed out, finding 2 that were spitting on a mammoth, and I used my shotgun to kill off the lion that had joined the fray before leading the higher level cryo over to a safer, more clear spot. Placed down my billboards in a V shape, a very easy way to trap them, and a pillar to hide behind. Though I wasn't careful enough and got frozen, then knocked out. After my short nap, I began the taming process, which involves shooting the frost lizard in the face to explode its ice glands so you can feed it. Finally blasting it one more time and feeding it so it became my friend. I named him Frosty Cheeks, since, you know, it spits ice and snow. Then as I was on my way to craft up a saddle, I found a Galvarex. This electric eccentric carnivore can power itself up with bioelectricity, so I want 1 or maybe 2 to breed them. I tried to make a cryo saddle, but was short of more silica pearls, thus I was off again to the shallows of the archipelago in the southeast, diving through the waters for the oyster's jewels. And once I was home, I made up the saddle for my frosted friend, and into the snowy tundra I went, mounted Frosty Cheeks to begin spitting at the Galvarex, and when it tried to power itself up, I froze it in place in order to prevent it attacking me. With one final spit, it went down and was asleep. Shoved in some mutton so it could begin munching away. My Galvarex finally woke up after having been force-fed mutton while I was unconscious. I named it Galvanex before trapping it up to head home to make a saddle. I set up an industrial grill, and while that was cooking, headed out on my Galvanex. I began to fight a horde of monkeys, powering up the Galvanex with electricity, allowing me to begin dishing out multiple very fast slashes, but I was taking too much damage and had to run away. And I was out exploring on my Maywing on day 52, flying across the map in search of loot, when I came across a terrifying beast.
What the fuck is that thing? Run, 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 run.
I tried to go back and see what that beast was, but it was just gone. I don't know where it went, but that thing was going to need a lot of teeth to kill. And I found a Ceratosaurus that I killed off for its glands, as with these glands I could make a hemoglobin cocktail to be able to tame a Ceratosaurus of my own.
Is that a Galvarex? Why be it so massive?
I think I may have been the reason.
You filthy scallywag! Are you thick? Give me that! It's a key for defeating the beast and freeing the curse!
And after some time spent breeding, I hatched up all of the eggs for plenty of babies to delete for experience. Then I set off towards the desert, where I found a Razortooth. This creature basically works as a Eutyrannus and can fear its enemies while buffing its allies, but my tranks were not doing very much. Let's go, Frosty Cheeks! I had to fill up on water in the ocean before heading out to trank the Razortooth, as Frosty instantly got feared. The fear finally ran out, so I turned to try and freeze the Razortooth, but it simply would not work. Frosty was hurting, so I tried to run as Frosty died from under me. Sprinting to get away, dodging through trees, but one final bite from the Razortooth slashed the life from my eyes. Respawning at the base, I saddled a new Maywing to fly all the way back where I was able to recover my things, but the death of Frosty hurt. I would need to tame a new cryo, and preferably 2 so that I could breed them. And I hadn't seen much signs of the pirates in my travels, so I was very surprised to stumble across not 1, but 4 galleons parked in the swamp. Not entirely sure how they got their boats here, but it made me wonder why they surrounded this one patch of rocks in the water, and floated down to it in order to be as quiet as possible, diving down into a submerged cave. Swam all the way through, and emerging on the other side, revealed a hidden pirate's cove. So this is where they've been hiding out, but why? I snuck my way in, but nobody was around, and I tried to break into one of their treasure chests, but the lock was too strong, so I chose to just get out of here before the pirates came back. And I was going to need some med brews, soups and kibbles if I wanted to thrive in this land, so I set up an industrial cooker to be able to make all of these way faster. As I zip dashed and slid around the snow in search of a new pair of cryos to tame, I instead found that overdrive Galvarex. Now I don't know what this thing really is, but I know I need to kill it. Landing nearby, I pulled out my shotgun. Let's bring this thing down. I began to fire hundreds of rounds at the beast, using the high ground to my advantage as its health started to trickle down with every shot. Making sure to move around to a better position so I could continue to pummel it, when finally all it took was one last shot, killing the overdrive Galvarex. There was a direwolf camping the body that I killed off in order to get the loot from the Galvarex, but I was starting to freeze. Snooples helped get me home in no time to check out my loot, including my very own chibi Galvarex. But living in this cave felt really dark and dreary, so I set up some lamps around the room for the rest of the day to liven the place up a bit. And I was on my way to the desert when I spotted a flare coming from a castle, so I had to investigate. Who goes there? Who shot the flare?
Be quiet, else the captain be hearing ya.
What? Aren't you one of the pirates?
I be sorry about that. You see, long ago our ship was a great vessel, when a mysterious wizard cursed our ship, causing us to be no longer able to meet death's door.
What does it have to do with me?
Your father, he was one of the crew. He was the reason the wizard cursed us. So the wizard split his soul into the golems you see walking this here island, as well as some sort of multi-headed beast.
So that's why you took me.
Aye, you be the only one able to fully damage the beast. We be needing ya to defeat them and free us of our curse.
You know, you could have just asked me.
We be pirates, ya scoundrel. We don't ask, we pillage and plunder.
Suppose that kind of makes sense, but what now? And you don't say you want to imprison me again.
Nay, me ask that you go now and defeat the golems and the wizard's beast. Take this as well. It's a skull of that monkey that once claimed these lands. Use it to lure the beast at its shrine. Free us that we may rest.
Matey, where be you?
Go before the captain be seeing ya.
Why shoot our flare?
Okay, suppose it's the right thing to do. I'll see what I can do. After that strange meeting, I leaped away on my Maywing as I was going to need an army now that I knew what lay ahead. As I was heading home, however, I did stumble upon that shipmaker's house again and saw that they had built up a decent amount, so it was good to see their business was doing well. With the goal of taming some cryos, I set off into the snow where I found a level 290. Jumped off my Maywing only for the cryos to run off the cliff into battle. So I had to help them out by killing off the mammoths with my shotgun, then headed down to try and trap the cryo. But no matter what I did, it simply would not work out, and with the sun setting for the day and my Maywing getting high on torpor, I had to head home. After some time for my Maywing to recover, I began to search for another cryo to tame instead, but every time I found one there was just a dead creatures around. Finally my luck changed as I tamed a level 190 female, as well as a level 260 female. Truly peak efficiency. The male cryo I found on day 63 was not as simple as a tame, stuck on the edge of a cliff as I did my standard shooting it in the face, but I did get knocked out once as I slid down the hill. I finally got it tamed though, so now I had a breeding pair which I set up in my cave. But now that I had stuff to tame with, I was going to need a dino with teeth. Big teeth. There is one tame I wanted which I had seen before, the Evo Giga. If I was going to tame one though, I was going to need to kill one. Threw out a couple Rexes and then sent them in. They charged in and began to shred the Giga, only for it to enrage and smash straight through them. I pulled out my shotgun to try and finish it off, but it began to heal too much as it attacked the Brontos nearby, healing off their corpses. This shotgun was not going to work. Thus I flew home to grab some more Rexes and sent them in. Rexes began to munch and shred the Giga, finally killing it. Giga heart acquired. As I began to scour the map for Giga to tame, I instead found a level 300 Ceratosaurus, which just made me realize I was going to need a tank to be able to tame the Giga, and maybe a Cerato too. Too bad the tanks I made in a previous video are stuck on the island. So instead, this Bronto I found will have to do. It just took a couple dozen trank darts while hiding high up on this cliff, but I finally got it down in a sleep. Rushed home to mix up some veggies, eggs and berries to cook up some kibble, which was shoved into the Bronto so it could tame up, and I had to repeat the process on day 67. Trank, cook, shove and tame, and now with a breeding pair I should be able to get myself my very own Evo Giga. I set up my Brontos to have some sexy time to make me some babies. Then while the egg was left to hatch next to the aircon, I heard a loud roar coming from outside my cave, so headed out to investigate only to find a whale rog. Seeing one so close to my base was a problem, as I will need to kill it before it gets to my gate. I threw out some Rexes for a small army and whistled them in. The whale rog began to fire cannonballs straight at the Rexes, but they charged in to begin to dig their teeth into the oversized walrus. It was thankfully a really low level, but its explosive water attack still dealt some serious damage as they finally killed it off. I collected my loot and got myself a decent pump action shotgun upgrade. I trapped up all my Rexes before safely returning to my cave for the rest of the day. I was short of polymer to make the shotgun in the morning of day 69 since I escaped those pirates. Nice. I've come a long way since being a slave to them, but fortunately if I can free this curse, I'll be free as well. But to do that, I still had a few creatures to kill, and one of which I came across in the desert, the arcane golem. Slightly more powerful than the whale rog, so I want to get myself some gigas to fight it, or maybe something that can deal magic damage. I killed off the mantis I needed for the polymer. I crafted up the shotgun once I got home before the rest of the day was spent breeding. I heard from one of the locals on the server that there was an Evo Giga roaming the plains, so after clearing out the aloes defending it, I set up some metal gates where I could trap the Giga and led him in as it challenged me. I ran over on my Maywing to close off the Giga's escape, then stepped forward on the Bronto as the taming for this Giga requires it to chomp on a tame in order to tire it out. Thus, the next few days were spent feeding this majestic beast some Bronto booty till finally it got so tired of munching on Dino Butt that it passed out right where it stood. With the Giga sleeping peacefully, I shoved in some kibble and a metric butt ton of narco berries to ensure it slept peacefully. And with it having eaten the kibble, woke up as my friend.
I'm gonna name you Fluffy.
Saddling up Fluffy in the morning, I ventured out to rip and tear through all the creatures outside my base, stomping on the ants and tearing through the dinos. It was so good to be on something powerful. But night began to arrive, so I headed home with Fluffy to rest through the night. I was out hunting for some Ceratosaurus to tame as I hoped their speed and agility would help against the creatures I still had to face, when I instead found a plague bearer Tyrannus. So it seems the curse of the pirates has begun to spread to the creatures on this ark, but using my shotgun I managed to kill it off only for plague mites to pour out of it. I dived to try get away as they destroyed my armor before sprinting and jumping onto my Maywing to get away. I wanted to get a mate for Fluffy in the morning of day 77, but I wanted to craft up a better Bronto saddle for them to tank the Giga better. So once I had the last bits of fiber I needed to make the saddle, repaired up all of my armor as well, and then flew off. And it was a simple affair of leading the Giga into the trap as it chose to challenge me, letting it munch on some Bronto booty, eventually taming up after being fed some kibble. I chose to name her Peaches. Then after getting home, I set up Peaches and Fluffy to begin laying eggs for the rest of the day. I had a nice pile of eggs sitting hatching by the time I realized that just having Gigas would not be enough, as some of the golems are incredibly fast, so I would need something to keep up with them. For that, I headed off in search of the Ceratosaurus. I found a level 30 I was able to kill since I needed more spines, as the Ceratos have a very interesting taming mechanic. I had to drain some of my own blood, then mix that with some Cerato spines and narcotics in order to make a Hemogoblin cocktail. before flying off with cocktails in hand to begin taming a Ceratosaurus. There was a level 300 I found on the cliff, and now in order to tame it, you feed the Hemogoblin cocktail to its tame. Then as the Cerato begins to munch on the drug-infused Bronto, it finally got completely blood drunk, allowing me to simply walk up and feed it some kibble, making it my friend. I was then flying home when I spotted an adolescent Nox. This massive beast with the ability to fling magic poison balls I really wanted to tame. So I jumped off the Maywing to feed it some kibble, and I gave it a cuddle, but did not realize that would annoy the mother as a Hunter Nox appeared behind it to take a massive bite out of it. To protect it from any future attacks, I set up some gates around it before leaving it to get hungry so I could keep feeding it. And with the Nox safely out of rend, I saddled up my Cerato to try it out, sprinting through the redwoods, tongue sticking out as it flapped in the wind. I got back to the Nox in the morning to continue the taming process, but I came prepared this time and brought Fluffy, just in case that mommy Nox shows up again. Then began to feed and cuddle the Nox. I also told it to hide if the mommy comes around. Then mounted Fluffy as the mommy showed up, so I began to munch and tear through its flesh, but it had zero interest in me. It only wanted my juvenile Nox before burrowing away. But it quickly returned and attacked my Nox before I managed to scare it away, and it thankfully did not take much to finish taming up the Nox as we fought together to scare off the mommy one final time. I trapped it up so I could head home to make a saddle and mount the Nox. I headed out and was able to begin digging through the earth, and was even able to launch poison balls from my hands. This Nox could actually be perfect to take out the arcane golem as I killed off a razor tooth. I continued onwards up the hill, and there it was, the golem. I began to spit poison balls from above, launching damage and beginning to melt its face. Chomping through it, but the Nox's innate magic resistance allowed me to finally kill off the arcane golem. But the battle had severely hurt my Nox, so I had to simply burrow my way home. I only had 2 more golems to defeat to be able to fight that shark and remove the island's curse, so I went to the desert to see if I was able to find it, when I instead spotted a really strange skull in the desert. A skull from a creature that hasn't existed on this ark in thousands of years. This was the skull of a Hydra. But with this curse of things not being able to die, I decided it was best to just leave it alone. And I was out searching for the final golems, only to accidentally fly straight into one of the local settlements. This was Wolf's trading den. They had a pretty dock and cool ship, as well as an awesome house. But I was too fat to fit in the window, and the door was locked. I continued hunting all the way until the early hours of day 88, when I finally found a brute golem on the northwest shores, and threw out my small army of gigas, then charged in. Oh no, he's enraged one of my gigas. Oh boy. Get him from behind. Go. Oh, he's enraged the second giga. I gotta be careful. Then with one final bite, the gigas took down the golem. With it defeated, there was only 1 golem left before I can safely take down that shark and purge the curse plaguing this land. Knowing that I was going to need some tames able to lead the shark from the depths, I went off to tame some Paleo Deinosuchus, walking straight up to it and dropping some kibble as its jaws slammed shut. Not a taming mechanic for the faint of heart. It only took 1 more bit of kibble, and I chose to name him Chompy. I tamed a couple more of the big crocs, even feeding 2 at the same time. Now that was a harrowing experience. But I set them up back at my base to begin breeding, which I did for the next few days, as I was going to need an army in preparation for the shark. I did have some fun with Chompy first, as I munched on the dinos near my base, devouring them whole. Days passed as I collected resources, defended myself versus monkey attacks, bred up Ceratos, Deinosuchus and Gigas. And there was 1 golem left I had to defeat in order to feel comfortable enough to take on the multi-headed shark and break the curse. So I ran out on Seri, my Ceratosaurus, charging towards the golem, only to get killed off the back of it by a golemite. I got back just in time to see Seri killed off by the golem and its minions. No, rip Seri! So instead I threw out some Dinosuchus and charged them into the ruined golem. They began to chomp, thrash and munch on the golem, pushing it into the ocean as they began to kill it off. This was it. The only thing left to do was kill off the monstrous shark. I spent day 99 hatching many eggs in preparation for an army, throwing out a mass of Gigas, Dinosuchus and Ceratosaurus, all named after my incredible Patreons who help support me financially to make these videos. Also remember to get your very own Nat plushie from Makeship using the link in my description. But I stood by the summoning shrine and sacrificed the Dinopithecus trophy I got from the first mate, as well as the 3 cores from the golems, when I heard a roar and it didn't sound like a shark. There was instead a massive level 1000 Hydra advancing straight towards my army. I jumped onto my knock so I'd be able to burrow and hide if not needed, and whistled my army to charge in. The Gigas began to rip and tear while the Ceratosaurus shredded through its ankles, weakening its flesh, for the Dinosuchus to crack down, breaking its bones. The Hydra recoiled in pain as I burrowed into the ground to dodge its attacks. It began to show signs of bleeding as I whistled in even more Gigas for it to fight, launching poison ball after poison ball from my knocks, when finally, with one final bite, my Giga Alexander munched to kill off the 5-headed beast. It felt like a massive weight flew off of my shoulders as the curse around the Ark lifted. It's time I finally leave this forsaken island. Thank you for watching and check out this video next. You'll enjoy it if you like this one.